Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to close your eyes for just a moment. Go on, close them. I want you to think about the last time, the very last time, you had a dream so big, so wild, so ridiculously beautiful, that you talked yourself out of it before you even tried. Maybe it was last night. Maybe it was this morning. Maybe it was 30 seconds before you clicked on this video. You had something burning inside you. A fire, a vision, a whisper that said, you could do this. And then something else showed up, something louder, something colder, something that sounded almost like your own voice. And it said, who do you think you are? Open your eyes. Because that voice, that thief, that liar, that invisible enemy that lives inside the 6 inches between your ears, that is what we are destroying today, not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready, not when the conditions are perfect. Today, right now, in the next few minutes of your life. My name is Priyanka Chopra, and I want to tell you something that nobody told me when I needed to hear it most. Self-doubt is not proof that you're not enough. Self-doubt is proof that you care. It's proof that what you want matters to you. It's proof that you're standing at the edge of something real. The question is, are you going to let it stop you? Or are you going to use it as fuel? Because I chose fuel, and it changed everything. Let me take you back. Not to the red carpets, not to Hollywood, not to the magazine covers or the award shows or the Met Gala. Let me take you back to a 15-year-old girl sitting in a tiny room in Bareilly, India, a middle-class city, far from glamour, far from anything extraordinary, writing letters to her father, letters she never sent, letters where she confessed that she didn't know who she was. She felt ugly. She felt too dark. She felt too loud, too much, too different, and somehow also not enough. That girl was me. And I need you to sit with that for a second, because I know a lot of you are looking at me right now. Whoever you see when you imagine Priyanka Chopra, and you're thinking, she doesn't know what self-doubt feels like. She was always confident. She was always beautiful. She was always destined for greatness. No, 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 no. Let me tell you about destiny. Destiny is not something that arrives fully formed at your doorstep like a package from Amazon. Destiny is something you build, brick by painful brick. Through rejection, through embarrassment, through failure, through those nights where you lie awake at 3 a.m. wondering if any of it is worth it. I was sent to America to study when I was 13 years old. 13. I was a child in a foreign country, living with relatives, going to schools where I was the only brown girl in the room. And kids, as you know, kids can be brutal. They called me Brownie. They mocked my accent. They made me feel like being Indian was something I should be ashamed of. And for a while, I am not proud of this, but I'm going to be honest with you. For a while, I believed them. I would come home and stand in front of the mirror and hate what I saw. I would practice speaking without my accent. I would try to shrink myself to fit into spaces that were never designed for me. I was erasing myself trying to belong somewhere I wasn't wanted. And this, THIS, is the first thing I need you to understand about self-doubt. Self-doubt is almost never something you were born with. Self-doubt is TAYUGHT, someone at some point. A teacher, a classmate, a parent, a society, a mirror, a number on a scale. Someone taught you to be afraid of who you are. And you, being the intelligent, feeling, human being that you are, you listened. You internalized it. You made it your truth. But here is what I know. After 40 years of living and stumbling and rising and stumbling again, other people's opinions of you are none of your business. Say that with me. Other people's opinions of you are none of your business. Because they don't know what God put inside you. They don't know what you're capable of. They don't know the depth of your hunger, the width of your love, the height of your potential. They are looking at you through the lens of their own limitations, their own fears, their own boxes, their own unexamined ideas about what a person like you is allowed to be. Don't you dare let someone else's ceiling become your floor. When I came back to India at 16, something shifted in me. Maybe it was the anger. Maybe it was the loneliness. Maybe it was watching my father. the most extraordinary man I have ever known. A man who dedicated his life to this country as an army doctor. Watching him live with such total, unshakable pride in who he was. My father never apologized for being Indian. My father never apologized for being different. My father walked into every room like he owned it. Not because he was arrogant, but because he had made peace with himself. He had decided that he was worthy of the space he occupied. And I thought, I want that. I want that peace. I want that sureness. But sureness doesn't come from certainty. Sureness comes from decide. At 17, I entered the Miss India contest. Did I think I was going to win? Honestly, no. I thought I was too short. I thought I wasn't traditionally beautiful enough. I thought the girls from the big cities, the ones who had been groomed for this, the ones who had the right connections and the right looks and the right polish, I thought they would win. And I would go home with a nice story to tell. But something inside me, something stubborn and loud and relentless, said do it anyway. Do it anyway. That right there is the antidote to self-doubt. Not confidence, not certainty, not having all the answers. Just doing it anyway. I won Miss India and then Miss World. And when they put that crown on my head in London in the year 2000, standing in front of the entire world, do you know what I felt? I felt terrified because now there were expectations. Now there was something to lose. Now the voice of self-doubt came back louder than ever because now it had ammunition. What if you can't live up to this? What if it was a fluke? What if they find out you're not really all that? And I'm going to let you in on a secret. That voice never fully goes away. Even now, even after everything, that voice still shows up. The difference is that I have learned not to let it drive. It can sit in the back seat. It can mumble. But it does not get to touch the wheel. I moved to Mumbai to become an actress. And Bollywood, let me tell you, Bollywood was not waiting for me with open arms. I was not the typical Bollywood heroine. I was too athletic. I was too outspoken. I was too ambitious. And the industry, like every industry, had its ideas about what a woman was supposed to be. How she was supposed to look, how she was supposed to behave, how much space she was supposed to take up. I refused to play small, and I paid for it. There were years, actual years, where I was not the first choice, where I would go for a role and be passed over, where someone would tell me, directly or through a third party, that I was difficult to work with, which I have learned is often what powerful men say about women who know what they want. Where I was made to feel that my ambition was a flaw rather than an asset. I remember one specific conversation with a producer. I won't say who looked me in the eye and told me that my skin was too dark for a particular role, that I should consider lightening treatments, that I didn't fit the image they were going for. And something inside me, that same stubborn, relentless, furious something, rose up. Because that was the moment I made a decision that has governed every choice I've made since. I decided that I would rather fail being myself than succeed being someone else's idea of me. Say that slowly. Let it land. I would rather fail being myself than SUCCE being someone else's idea of me. Because a success that requires you to betray yourself is not a success. It is a beautiful prison. And I refuse to be imprisoned, not by a producer's preference, not by a beauty standard, not by a society's expectation, not by the voice in my own head that had internalized all of their limitations. Here is something I want to talk about that nobody talks about enough. The relationship between self-doubt and identity. You see, most people think self-doubt is about capability. They think, I doubt myself because I'm not sure I can do it. And sometimes that's true. But mostly, self-doubt is about identity. It's the question beneath the question, the real fear. Not, can I do this? But, or am I allowed to want this? That is the real wound, and it runs deep. It runs through generations. It runs through culture and class and gender and race. Somewhere along the way, someone drew a circle and said, people like you belong inside this circle. And you were told explicitly or implicitly that wanting more, wanting different, wanting bigger, was greedy, was arrogant, was inappropriate. I grew up hearing, girls from good families don't put themselves out there. Girls from good families are modest. Girls from good families don't seek the spotlight. I sought the spotlight, relentlessly, unashamedly. And for a long time I carried guilt about that. I felt like my hunger was something I should apologize for. Like my ambition made me less of a good daughter, less of a good woman, less of a good person. But here is what I know now. Your hunger is holy. The thing that burns inside you. That restlessness, that ache for more, that feeling that you were made for something. That is not vanity. That is not ego. That is your soul trying to tell you something important. The world needs people who are on fire. The world needs people who show up fully, who live loudly, who dare greatly. Because the alternative, a life lived small, a life lived in apology, a life spent shrinking to fit other people's comfort. That is the real tragedy. Don't die with your music still in you. I am begging you, don't die with your music still in you. In 2015, something happened that changed my life in a way I never could have predicted. I said yes to a television show called Quantico, an American network television show on ABC, where I would play the lead, an Indian woman, a brown-skinned, Hindi-speaking immigrant origin woman, playing the lead of a major American prime time drama. The industry told me it couldn't be done. Not in those words, maybe, but in the way opportunities were framed, in the way conversations went. There was an unspoken assumption that a woman like me could not carry an American television show, that American audiences would not accept me as their lead. I did it anyway. The show premiered and within days, I was on the cover of Time magazine. Within months, people were stopping me on streets in New York, in Los Angeles, in cities I had never visited, saying, "You made me feel visible. You made me feel like I belong here too." And that, not the award, not the recognition, not the career milestone. That is what made it worth it. The knowledge that my refusal to accept someone else's ceiling had become a door for someone else. Because here is what self-doubt steals from you. Not just your dreams, not just your career, your contribution. Every time you let self-doubt stop you, the world loses something. The world loses, oh, you are a specific gift. You are a specific voice. You are a specific perspective. And the world is poorer for it. You don't just owe it to yourself to conquer self-doubt. You owe it to every person who will be changed by what you create when you finally stop holding back. I want to tell you about a moment that broke me. I was at what should have been the height of my Bollywood career. I had films. I had recognition. I had a trajectory that made sense. And then I lost my father, Dr. Ashok Chopra, my best friend, the man who taught me that courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward in spite of it. The man who had held my hand through every setback and celebrated every victory with more joy than I ever could. The man who believed in me, absolutely, completely, without question. When I struggled to believe in myself, he was gone. And I didn't know how to exist in a world without him. Grief is a strange and brutal teacher. Grief strips away everything that isn't essential. All the noise, all the performance, all the external markers of success. Grief burns all of it away and leaves you with just the raw, essential question. Who are you when there's nothing left to hide behind? I went into a darkness that I don't talk about often. Not depression, though I understand now that it was not far from it. A kind of hollow, a suspension. I would go to work and do what was required of me, and come home and feel nothing. I had everything and felt nothing. And it was in that hollowness that I finally came face to face with the self-doubt I had been running from for years. Because all my life, I had been outrunning it, working hard enough, achieving enough, moving fast enough that the doubt couldn't catch me. But grief slowed me down, and the doubt was right there, waiting. You're not enough. You never were. Everything you've built is fragile. And without him, who is going to catch you when it falls? I had a choice in that moment, a real life-defining choice.